maintenance. So maintenance is over a 5-year period. Consistent teacher practice needs to be demonstrated, and we will need to submit a report to the TAA in the final year of each period, demonstrating how we have maintained accreditation at that level. The 100 hours of professional development, similar to teachers at professional competence that you will be familiar with. 20 hours registered, and these are registered courses at PA or PL. Not registered courses that are currently available at PC. And you're saying to me, but where are we going to get those from? The good news is, because that was my first thought, the good news is that, I've got to get this right, PLLD Directorate, Professional Learning and Leadership Development Directorate, is that right? They, as you know, develop a lot of TPL modules online, and they are currently producing registered professional learning courses at PA and PL. In the teacher identified hours, there's at least 20 hours of professional commitment activity. Yes?
You were talking a minute ago about using stuff. How old in a piece of evidence do?
That's a good question. And in fact, one of my comments to the regional director on Friday is that we were looking at one piece of evidence and I said, oh, actually, that's a bit old now. And then I said, but when I started this process, it wasn't. I'd like to be able to give you, I think it's within 3 to 4 years. But what does it say? 5 years, up to 5 years. That's right, 5 years. So, and that can be difficult too, because I found that I had done things in the past, but I didn't know I was going to need documentation for. So sometimes you've got things that you just don't have written documentation for because it's in the past. Yep.
Over the 5 years, 100 hours, professional development, is that per year or over?
No, that's over the 100 hours over the 5 years. Yes?
The other question is, we're HATs for 2 years, right? And if at the second year, a HAT gets a job.
Yes.
In another different job, what happens to PL? Do they still have to finish it?
I don't know. You would need to speak to, you'd really need to speak to somebody in your region about that, because it's part of the employment condition. The other thing I would say is that I certainly needed to submit it in order to extend my HAT role. So it's a requirement of accepting a HAT position, but it's also a requirement to have that submission in before your role's extended. So I'm not sure. No one's actually been in that situation that I know of. So, yes? I had a range of things, and all my evidence I converted to PDF. So I had Word documents, I had publisher documents, I had spreadsheets, I had PowerPoint presentations. I even had a screen dump of some entries and a thread on Yammer that I wanted to use about a professional conversation that was held in that corporate social network environment. So it was actually a screen dump that showed that conversation that I converted to PDF. So it can and needs to be a whole range of things.
When you said you gave your principal 5 standards to report on, was that 5 separate reports? Or did you
Yes. Yes.
So all the referees can actually do more than one report?
They can. They write a separate report for each standard. Yes?
They can write a report that has a couple of standards.
It's not the way it's set up. It's set up so that, and it's the same with the external observer. So she wrote 7 separate reports for my 7 standards.
Is that the same with your annotations?
Yes. The annotations belong to the document. So each document has one annotation. So it's slightly different for the documentary evidence. Yep. Yes, it was very informal and it wasn't nearly as scary as I thought it would be, to be quite honest. It wasn't the case where they kind of came in and didn't have any conversation and just needed to see it and they either saw it or they didn't. It wasn't about that. It was more collaborative and it was more informal, and there were conversations around the standard, and before we actually undertook the activity around what types of things might be observed, as well as discussions afterwards. Yep.
When you attach evidence, does it have to be presented in the order that you've done it? Say if you gave it in 2009, evidence from 2009?
No.
Just all over?
That's a good question, because when I started I thought that it needed to be chronological, but it's very complicated to make things chronological. No, it doesn't need to be in any order at all. Regionally, in the Hunter Central Coast now, when documents are uploaded, there's a file protocol. So we're asking people in our region to label their files in a particular way so that it makes it easier when it gets to the TAA to be able to print them all off, and it will have some order. But that's just, that's got nothing to do with priority or date of the evidence. It's just in order to be able to find things.
And if we're writing the annotation, just say I wrote an annotation last year.
Yes?
And I projected into 2012, is that still acceptable, or do I have to go back?
No, I wouldn't go back. If you've already written one, I wouldn't go back. Just use it, because this is not a sort of thing where, you know, you can do it over a short period of time. So, you know, we're looking at a process that can take up to 2 years. So if you've written an annotation last year that was relevant then, I would just leave it like that.